In this video, I'll be testing out the aim down sight speed, also known as ADS, of every weapon in the game, except for the knife and Uzi, of course, because those guns can't aim. And at the end of the video, we're gonna see which weapon is the fastest ADS and which one is the slowest. Actually, I'm not really sure because I believe some of the values have changed over time, and I've never done a test this thoroughly before. I've done class-specific guides, but never tested every weapon. But before we get into the testing, I want to mention two things. First of all, as you guys can see, I got a new camera, so I'll be doing a setup tour soon. And second, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I'm usually not pushy about asking for subs, and I would like to keep it that way. But looking at my YouTube analytics, I noticed that 83.5% of my views come from people who are not subscribed to me. The methodology is really simple. All I'm doing is recording gameplay footage of myself aiming down sights, going back into Adobe Premiere, and then counting the frames, and it's on a 60 FPS timescale. You might be wondering why 60 FPS if your game runs higher than that. That's because the gameplay footage is recorded at 60 FPS, so that's essentially as accurate as we're gonna get with this type of testing. But the problem with this is that it's not quite accurate enough for this test. So behind the scenes, I'm gonna do the test 10 times and record the averages. If you do want to convert frames to time, the way you can think about it is that one frame equals 16 milliseconds or 1/60 seconds. One last thing, I did not review any stats online before going into this. Even if we did have stats available, they might not have been updated, and we don't necessarily know how it's going to be interacting with the rest of the game engine. My testing is going to have its own limitations as well, of course, and a lot of these measurements are going to be super close to each other. We'll start with the weapons that have the longest ADS speed and work our way down from there. And I'm grouping together weapons with similar ADS speeds because it could be within the margin of error. The slowest aim down sight speed that I measured is the rocket launcher. Slightly surprising because I believe a previous patch gave it faster aim speed. When the screen starts moving, that's frame 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and the screen stops moving, so 13 frames. And the 10 sample average is 13.3 frames. Unsurprisingly, spray and pray with the LMG is also one of the slowest, and it was really close to the rocket, so that's why I grouped them together. Definitely within the margin of error, so statistically speaking, they might have the same stats. In this example I'm showing on screen right now, you can see that I counted 14 frames, but most of the time I was counting 13, and I believe that there were 1 or 2 14s. 10 sample average is 13.2 frames to ADS. Next, we have the 10th and 11th place weapons, and they were a whole lot faster than the 12th and 13th place ones. FAMAS was an interesting one because I super consistently measured 9 frames, and I believe that there was a 10 frame and an 8 frame, so those cancel each other out. So in the end, the FAMAS measured 9 frame average, and that puts it at 11th in the list. In 10th place, we have the TRIGGERMAN, which is very close to the FAMAS. You can see that the example on screen shows 8 frames, but 7 out of 10 times I recorded a 9 frame ADS. On average, it took 8.7 frames for the TRIGGERMAN to aim down sights. Moving on, 3rd through 9th place were extremely close together, so that's why I grouped them. These weapons could conceivably have the same stats, but maybe a slightly different animation. I was still somewhat surprised by the results. Shotgun scored in 9th place, and it was an interesting one. The animation was a bit different, where the first frame, the screen doesn't move very much, so it was really subtle. And the average of 10 samples ended up being 8.3 frames. In 8th place, we have the MARKSMAN, and it was nice to see the semi-auto have significantly faster aim down sight speed than TRIGGERMAN. It was just 0.1 frames off from the shotgun, but when you compare it to the TRIGGERMAN, it becomes more statistically significant. Just bear in mind that we're still talking less than 1 frame of a difference. 5th through 7th place was a 3-way tie. I was surprised to see Hunter do so well. Even though I did a video on Hunter before, I forgot how fast Scopin was, even if the accuracy buff might not fully kick in. Now I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the scope disappears. So Sniper scored 8 frames most of the time with an 8.1 frame average. The SMG is tied with the sniper rifle, so also 8.1 frames. I kind of hoped that SMG would be a little bit faster, TRIGGERMAN seems to still be a more popular pick over run and gun, so a very slight ADS speed boost might help. But I also know that not too long ago, the run and gun got a hipfire accuracy buff, so that's another way that run and gun is differentiated. Pistol is tied with the sniper and the SMG. Unsurprising, but don't worry, there are a few more surprises left. By the way, for this video, I wanted to show off the iron sights when you aim down sights, but typically I play with a setting called hide weapon on ADS turned on, and that just gives me a better view when I'm zoomed in. In a tie for 3rd through 4th place, we have the Deagle, and remember, everything from 3rd through 9th place I grouped together. There's a good chance that stats-wise they share the same aim speed. Deagle ended up averaging out at 8, but I did record a score of 9 and 7, and those numbers cancelled. Tied with the Deagle is the Alien Blaster. I don't use iron sights, but I do really like the iron sights on the Blaster. Doesn't completely block the bottom of your screen. But anyways, the Blaster got pretty much the exact same scores as the Deagle. I think 2nd and 1st place is really interesting. If you have good memory, you could probably guess what they're going to be. And 2nd place goes to the BOWMAN with the CROSSBOW. And I'm not sure exactly how much its in-game stats actually differ, if at all. But just have a look at this ADS animation because it looks really fast, and then I'll show you guys the testing results. Here it is, the BOWMAN averaged out to 7.7 frames. And surprisingly, I even recorded ADS speeds as fast as 6 frames. So here you can see for yourself. Scrubbing backwards, see how there's no movement. So now I'm gonna scrub forwards at 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 frames. But it ended up being a 7.7 average, so closer to 8, and whether you think that it's significantly different enough from an 8 frame class, I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Now we have the grand finale, and if you are paying attention, you might already know what it is. My memory is certainly not that good. Detective with the revolver gets 1st place, fastest ADS in the game, and the revolver was significantly faster than the bow, consistently aiming down sights in just 7 frames. The example on screen shows 8 frames, but this was the exception, because you can see that the Detective actually averaged out to 7.3 frames to perform an ADS. Just to prove that I'm not crazy, here's some more examples. So I'm gonna scrub the clip back, find the point where movement starts. So this is where movement starts. I'm gonna clip that. So now this is frame 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I go forward 1, no movement. One more example, so dragging the clip back. Find movement. So this is where movement starts, going back 1. Snap is on, cut right here. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Move forward 1, no movement. So what does this all mean, and is a revolver OP? Not so fast. We still don't know things like if the animation is delayed on certain weapons, or when the aim buff fully kicks in. By the way, I did check my results versus the aim speeds listed on the Krunker wiki, and a lot of my hunches were pretty close, but there were some interesting discrepancies, and there were some numbers that I think were quite different. So you can check out the Krunker wiki and decide for yourself. You might also be wondering why I would spend the time to do a test like this, and I think that there are 2 answers. So the first is that aim speed is an extremely important metric in first-person shooter games, and sometimes goes overlooked. Krunker, the ADS speed is really fast. I think that's a good thing overall because the game feels really snappy and satisfying to play because of it. But it also can contribute to the game balance. So in the future, the developers can make small tweaks to the aim speed, and that can have a dramatic change on weapon balance. So we should pay attention to these numbers going forward. And the second part of the answer is that I really just enjoy testing stuff out. In the past, people commented that like philz must be good at math and good at science. Actually, I really didn't have interest in math or science that much when I was growing up. I got into science and math like later in life, and I'm still not very good at math. But the point is that if you take a game that you enjoy like Krunker and just start testing things out, all of a sudden you're doing basically what is a science experiment. So you have a hypothesis and you're testing it and you're measuring and you're recording data and you're trying to use good methodology. So even if this video can inspire like one person to get into science and math, then I think it's worth it. Just don't take things for granted. On the surface level, some things you might feel like you understand and are for certain, but once you start testing things out, you're discovering more and more intricacies. So let's say you're still in school and you need to finish a science project in order to pass the class. Well, just think about your favorite game and how you would evaluate certain things and apply that to whatever you're doing in life. And if you can get behind math, I want to bring it to politics really quick. I'm not a very political person, But if you're an American over 18 years old, that means you can vote in the upcoming presidential election. One candidate that you should really check out is someone named Andrew Yang, and he is pushing something called universal basic income. So he's going to give every American over 18 $1,000 a month because he really believes in the people to bring the country forward. Just imagine how many cookies you could buy with $1,000 a month. So something to consider. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my video. I have a lot of really cool content coming for 2020. Thank you guys so much for all the support. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. And if you're already subscribed, you guys are the best.